It has been frustrating and upsetting to witness people be completely stripped of their agency through barriers at a local, national and international level. The EU and national bureaucratic systems prevent people from moving forward with their lives and contributing to society. It's been hard to watch repeatedly the system break individuals and leave them feeling hopeless and mentally exhausted.
What's also been frustrating has been witnessing the same issues year after year. The authorities' yearly unpreparedness for the winter months, resulting in inhumane living conditions that people are forced to live in, especially on the Aegean islands, has been appalling. So many years later, grassroots organisations are still needed to fill gaps in emergency needs, both within the camps and for those living on the street due to inaccessible asylum system, in particular on the Greek mainland.
In the camps, there's often little or no access to adult education, including language classes or skills development.
There's not enough legal assistance, including access to trained interpreters, to support people through the asylum process or navigate bureaucratic processes. For example, assistance in obtaining documentation required to work, document renewals, ensuring all children are registered and able to go to school. So new closed camps are being built on the Aegean islands and on the mainland. And this move demonstrates that the Greek government and the EU are favouring severe forms of segregation rather than working towards integration as a solution for the so-called refugee crisis, detrimental to those forced to live in these structures as well as the host population. The psychosocial effects of incarceration in regards to people's agency and mental well-being are severe and will put communities or individuals facing discrimination within the camp particularly at risk. Asylum seekers staying in closed facilities will be completely socially isolated, with no chances of cross-cultural activities or opportunities to meet people from the host population. It will also block any opportunities to become economically autonomous. People will be completely dependent on the state and international organisations, which can lead to mental deterioration.
What should not be forgotten is that these closed camps are essentially prisons. People escaping war, persecution, deprivation, environmental catastrophes, to name just a few reasons why people choose to make the journey to Europe, are being imprisoned and forced to stay in camps where the conditions are often just as bad or even worse than the conditions they're fleeing from. Closed camps have a huge potential to re-traumatise individuals and communities who have left everything behind in pursuit of safety and stability. The creation of spaces or groups that allow refugees to feel comfortable and safe and which foster a sense of belonging can make a huge difference in people's lives, as well as contribute to the inclusion of refugees in the local community. Initiatives that help people regain their agency, supporting them to become independent and reclaim control of their lives, can have a particularly long-term impact.
For example, projects that provide employability support or help people develop new skills. It's great to see people develop skills which they're passionate about and that allow them to sustain themselves financially. Spaces or projects led by people with lived experience of the asylum system are especially important.
A better reception system of asylum seekers would mean having a clear and transparent asylum process with shorter deadlines that are kept. There should be easy to navigate pathways so that people can launch their asylum claim on arrival to a country, as is enshrined in international human rights law, so that they can be efficiently registered in the system and able to access their rights as an asylum seeker. During the asylum process, people should be able to access their right to education, work, as well as receive support in acquiring the right documentation to access this right, free legal support, housing in humane and dignified conditions, in apartments or houses in places where there are real social and economic opportunities and access to services, as well as have access to the social workers and psychologists who are trained to work in the specific contracts and who either speak their language or who are trained to work with suitably trained interpreters.
Integration opportunities should be offered throughout the asylum process, including receiving high-quality language classes, support in employability, skills development, assistance in finding work, and in meeting locals. Once international protection status is received, economic support and housing should be offered until the individual or family is able to support themselves, and unemployed asylum seekers and refugees should be able to access the same economic and employability support as the host population. All authorities and personnel involved in reception and throughout the asylum process should be trained in the asylum process, trauma-informed practices, de-escalation and non-violent communication, and have an understanding of the international protection law.
Rather than camps, asylum seekers should be accommodated in safe, suitable housing and places that take into consideration the individual needs of particular groups and individuals. This could mean in large cities where governments could renovate and transform unused buildings into safe and suitable housing, or smaller towns and villages. There have been some successful cases documented in both Greece and Italy where refugees with proper integration support and training have reinvigorated remote areas that have suffered from demographic decline.
Asylum seekers should be provided with the necessary information so they're able to make informed decisions on their transition to independent living once they receive international protection, including advice and training on their rights, language, housing, culture and employment to facilitate their smooth inclusion and active involvement in the host community. One example of a successful alternative suitable for younger single refugees is Star Block housing in Amsterdam. The project has 463 studio apartments and 102 rooms. Half of them are for Dutch students and recent graduates, and the other half are for newly recognised refugees. In exchange for low-cost housing, the students and refugees are expected to take care of the property together and learn about each other's cultures, thus providing dignified and suitable housing, whilst also building community and supporting young refugees to integrate into Dutch society.
The example of Riace in Italy, where refugees reinvigorated the small town which had suffered from demographic decline, demonstrates how support to include refugees in society and reclaim their agency is mutually beneficial for both those seeking asylum and local communities. State and institutional funding, managed by the local community, combined with supporting refugees with accommodation, training and language lessons, can revitalise communities and services that are under threat. A similar but arguably less successful example, because of the local economy's reliance on tourism, is the Greek island of Delos. Initiatives such as this require time and investment to develop, but they demonstrate a step in the right direction.